And this leads us to March 18. Because we're getting close from the first payment, I start sending emails to Chris and Melissa. This is a friendly reminder that in 14 days, as borrowers, you will have to start refunding me, the lender, according to the agreement we signed on September 30, 2021. Please reply to this email explaining how do you intend to proceed for the payments. They never replied. So 2 days later, I sent the exact same email. And the next day, and again, and again. Until we reach March 24, I sent a final email with the subject line, "This is the last warning." This is going to be our last communication before April 1st, after 6 days of sending daily reminders asking you politely to confirm reception and you never did. This is the last warning I'm sending you before the expected payment in 8 days. For the last time, here's the summary of your expected payments according to the agreement we signed on September 30, 2021. Warning, we finally reached the dreaded extortion part that you've been waiting for. Here's a very quick recap on how we got there. I hand Chris and Melissa Putaro over $10,000 to help them pay 6 months of advance rent, allegedly by a wire transfer. I ask for a refund of my money and Chris says that he's gonna repay me according to the months I paid in advance. We sign a loan agreement to make sure that this happens. And now we have reached March 25, 2022, which is probably the most important date in this entire story. You remember when Nicole Walker asked me for the lease of the apartment? Well, on that day, I reach out to her again because I'm starting to have some suspicions. Hey Nikki, I'm just wondering something I forgot to ask you. Why did you ask me for the lease of the place at a moment when Melissa is very close from having to start giving my money back and that Emily complains about me to the code of conduct? He sends me this at 6:26. I'm not gonna read the whole email because that's not actually what's really important. But what he sends me with this email is this. This letter is to inform you of the intent of repayment of your repaid lease agreement funds. I do recognize that your internet-based contract was signed by myself. I'm really happy he said that because this way he can't accuse me of forging his signature. However, this was done under undue influence of coercion. Okay, let's see. Coercion. The practice of persuading someone to do something by using force or threats. Okay, so I forced him to sign that document. Okay, let's suppose I really did that. The following will be the repayment schedule showing all calculations along with any deductions. The following are the majority of the expenses occurred during the lease and/or occupancy process. Breakdown of the previous costs shared, early lease termination. Because I terminated the lease early, there's 2 full payments of $1,775, which I don't have the right to have back. This adjusted repayment schedule will be strictly followed apart from any early, partial, or full repayments and/or banking transfer delays. The sole reason you initially received an electronic copy of the lease is because the agreement we had of sharing all costs and schedules of this lease. I have verbal and electronic confirmation of those agreements. He never presented those quote-unquote confirmations. You must fully dispose of my personal information, he's talking about the lease here, as it does not contain any specific purpose for yourself and has no intended purpose for yourself. All electronic and physical copies must be deleted and/or properly shredded, otherwise we will proceed with invasion of privacy charges. He wants to sue me for invasion of privacy for a document that he gave to me in the first place. Sounds logic, but it's actually something else that's bugging me on this. I have to dispose of the lease because it does not contain any specific purpose for myself. However, earlier in this same letter, he retains 2 full payments because I terminated the lease early. I'll let you decide if it makes sense or not. In detailed conversations, I'm strictly following the legal advice received from my counsel. If you have any concerns, please email myself and I will forward all on to my attorney. He insists that I don't reach out to his lawyer directly. Oh, and by the way, in this whole letter, he's speaking on behalf of his lawyer. Sincerely, Chris Putaro, CC. The reason I'm keeping the identity of the lawyer and the law firm concealed is because they really do exist in Brandon, Manitoba. But it's actually not what's important here. He said in his letter that he CC'd his lawyer. In the email where he attached this document to, CC, Chris and Melissa Putaro, Chris Putaro. No lawyer's email. So remember, I received this email at 6:26 p.m. At 11:57 p.m., 5.5 hours later, I receive another email from him. Matthew, you will see attached a cease and desist notification to yourself. I take this extremely seriously and I hope you will as well. We have been informed that you have been maliciously spreading inaccurate and unfounded information that is damaging to Melissa and or Chris Putaro's personal and professional character. It is unlawful in Canada for an individual to make deliberate statements that are intended to harm personal or professional reputation without full factual evidence. That's fair enough. He's right about that. The defamatory statements are both from recent and previous statements from yourself. Examples are, but not limited to, social media and group chats. Those are not examples. We have electronic evidence and will be disclosed during necessary legal action. That's not how it works. If you have evidence against me, you show it. You don't threaten to. If you do not cease all statements, a defamation of character lawsuit will be commenced against you. In addition, this shall serve as a pre-suit letter demanding that you will provide us written assurance within 5 business days that you will cease and desist from making further factually untrue statements. If you do not comply with this cease and desist letter Let's start again. If you do not comply with this cease and desist letter with the aforementioned time period, doesn't he mean within? If you do not comply with this cease and desist letter with the aforementioned time period, then a lawsuit may be filed and will be seeking monetary damages. You already have all my money and it's still not enough? You still want more? Okay, sounds legit. As well as pursuing all available legal remedies for your defamation. Okay, let's say I really did slander about them. I want to send this and this to a lawyer. But the problem is, I can't do it. Why? It's Friday night, and in the weekend, all the law firms are closed. So if I want to contact a lawyer, I have to wait 2 more days. Did he do that on purpose? And why are they waiting now, 1 week before they have to refund my money, to send me this? And by the way, I have to provide a written assurance within 5 business days. Let's count 5 business days from there. March 28, March 29, March 30, March 31. Aha! April 1st. Was something important supposed to happen on April 1st? Do you think it's a coincidence? I'll let you decide for yourself. Comes Monday morning, March 28th, the first thing I do, I call the law firm in Ontario that has been classified on the internet as the best. The very next day on March 29 at 11 a.m., I have a first consultation with the lawyer that was attributed to me. In the meantime, something else is happening. You remember I texted Nikki Walker asking her, why did she ask me for the lease? She responds, it's none of your business why I asked for the lease, and I would advise you don't speak about Emily at any capacity. It's a personal issue I have, and it's good to have to make sure I'm paying the right amount. That's a very polite way to talk to someone who did you a favor by sending you the lease when you requested it. And another thing, at that point, she was living in that apartment for 6 months. And it's only now that she was worrying if she was paying the right amount of rent. And also, why did she ask me for the lease when she could have very easily asked Chris and Melissa? Especially considering that after what I did to Emily, she lost all respect for me. At 5:51 p.m., just a few hours after I have my consultation with my lawyer, I received this. Matthew, I just sent April's payment for $17.75. Password is Chris. He did send me the payment for April, 3 days in advance. It's a pretty huge coincidence that, like, I consult my lawyer in the morning, and at night he sends me the payment that was expected in 3 days. The very next day, I was on my way back to Montreal, and during the train ride, I received another email. Are you available to meet today at noon? Yo, I even had time to forget about that. Emily Larman complained about me on March 8th. My program director met with me privately and told me that Emily requested I must not ask a single question and not make a single comment. Only an apology. I don't have the right to say anything else. Let's state some facts about Emily Larman and about this complaint as well. Fact number 1. At that time, Emily was still roommates with Melissa. Fact number 2. Myself and Emily did some background work on a film in the month of February after the incident happened. She was there with Nikki and another friend from our class. During that day, none of them even wanted to interact with me. That would have been the perfect opportunity to come and see me, and if Emily didn't have the courage to do it herself, she could have just asked Nikki or the other friend to just come and tap on my shoulder. Hey, Matthew. Wouldn't it be nice to apologize for what you did to Emily? But they never did. Fact number 3. Emily and I, during that time, we had one class together. And she was still attending those classes. And when I got in that meeting, the first thing I was told, sorry for delaying it, everybody's being sick. Emily was sick. She was still attending her classes. Fact number 4. During that 5-minute Zoom meeting, I can tell she was even more embarrassed than I was. And it only lasted 5 minutes. So she delayed the whole thing for 3 weeks for only a 5-minute meeting. And coincidentally, that 5-minute meeting happened not even 24 hours after Chris pays me what he's due for April. All of this just for an apology. Is it a coincidence? Is it not a coincidence? You have to decide for yourself. On March 31, the next day, I reached out again to Nicole because I wanted to help her. Chris was able to refund me the payment for April before those 2 girls paid their rent to them. So I'm suspecting something. I may be wrong. Did he have my money in his pocket that whole time? I don't know, but it's possible. So I text Nicole. I shared that Chris sent me his payment for April. That money isn't refundable. Aren't they using the money they are getting from us to pay you back? Because that was the deal at the start. Because he took all my money and wire transferred it to the landlord, allegedly. That was the deal. Those 2 girls' rents were being used to refund me. I respond, unless you tell me you already gave them your rent for April on March 29 or before, they're not. She responds, they gave you all the money in full? I respond, no, just the payment for April so far. So where has the rest of the money gone? This is something I can't answer, but I'm pretty convinced it wasn't used for the rent. Maybe Melissa used it to pay her tuition for term 3 or to pay the people that helped her produce her silent film. Because that's another thing. In term 3, we had to produce our first silent film. And what I learned is that Melissa, for her silent film, the people who she got to work on her film with, she paid them, which was actually a rule to not do. Immediately after I sent her that text, Chris tries to call me when he said in his letter, no conversations via phone will be entertained. He's breaking his own rule. He calls me once, I decline the call. He calls me a second time, 1 second later, I decline it as well. And at the same time I do that, Nicole completely blocks me everywhere.